They select many or even all of the areas they want to explore. They recruit many or even all of their own instructors. They assemble a team of learning colleagues. It sounds too promiscuous, I know, too undisciplined, but in the real world of laws, customs, and parental rights, everything is by negotiation, isn't it? Every situation is one of a kind. But all parties to the negotiations accept that nobody can give you an education. An education must be taken by those who want one. The will and the dogged persistence of the seeker are the only essential tools needed to become educated. Teachers, texts, money, and equipment play only minor roles, and paper, pencil, tests play no role at all. Now, I'd like to move from these simple, ordinary examples to some pretty big-time examples. A few years ago, the ThyssenKrupp Steel Corporation of Germany decided to unload its mighty Phoenix steel plant in Dortmund on China. Steel prices were down. It looked to management as if they would stay down. So a command decision was made to push Phoenix, all 200 acres of buildings, onto China, even though that would throw 10,000 Germans out of work, some of them from families which had worked at Phoenix for 200 years, generation after generation. Phoenix had made the cannon for the Napoleonic Wars. Management expected two payoffs, one in the sales price, one in the moving bill, excuse me, for a job it estimated would take 3 years and an army of specialized engineers and technicians. China bought the plant, but not the moving charge. China said it would move Phoenix itself. Lots of luck, huh? Where do they know about dismantling steel mills? One fine day, a raggedy band of 1,000 peasants, led by a ham-handed, unschooled peasant named Shen Wen Rong, opened up in Dortmund. By the way, the story's from the Financial Times, March 17th, 2006, because otherwise it would be unbelievable. Shen was an odd duck as a project manager. He didn't use a computer. He didn't have a real office, and he worked from a child's school desk. His first decision was to escape German housing and meal costs, so the crew built its own dormitories and commissary on the property in 21 days. Then they broke Phoenix down, crated it, shipped it, uncrated it, and reassembled it in 1 year, not 3. Numerous rules were broken in the process. These amateur deconstructionists set aside time-honored rules for proceeding taught in engineering schools and codified in statute whenever more creative problem-solving seemed appropriate. In the time it took to complete the move, China's huge orders for steel on world markets drove prices through the roof, exactly as Chinese planners figured would happen when they bought Phoenix. The plant was a big money maker in China right from the first day, just as it would have been if it had been kept in Dortmund. Not only did the ignorant Chinese outwork the trained and well-educated Germans, they outthought them too. How have we allowed ourselves to be fooled into believing that experts and specialists are needed for matters within the reach of ordinary people? How have we been taught to think so little of ourselves? If a farmer and an amateur construction crew of farmers can tear down and put back up a huge steel plant 3 times faster than experts say it can be done, then you and I need to rethink a lot of what we've been carefully conditioned in schools to accept as truth. This presentation actually has a title, although I don't know if it's in the program. It's called Walkabout London, and now let me penetrate the mystery of that. One of the 25 wealthiest individuals in the world in 2009 is the high school dropout, Sir Richard Branson. Branson thinks the most important lesson he ever learned was at the age of 4 when he took an open source adventure in the London suburb of Shamley Green. 52 years after the event, he remembered vividly how it happened. This was in last May 2007 issue of New Yorker. There's a profile of Branson in which he remembers this story. He was on a drive with his mother, miles from home, single-parent family, by the way, when she asked him whether he thought he could find his way home alone from where they were. Age 4. Try to picture some 4-year-olds you know. And she said, "Could you find your way home alone from here, Richard?" And he said he thought he could, and she pulled the car over at once. "Get out then and do so," she said. And she drove off, not to a safe distance, and watched the little bugger. Now she went home. Probably poured a drink. Of course, he did it. By the age of 12, he was taking 100-mile bike trips, round trip to the beach at Bournemouth. Quote, "Mother was determined to make us independent," he said, over a half-century after the walk. Later, after a very brief go at high school, he dropped out, never wasting a day at college waiting his turn. Wasn't a moneyed family. His mother was a stewardess in the days when that was a dicey profession. At 19, he had his first successful business. His moon rocket and Virgin Airlines were launched without walk, although it took some time. They had front pages of the New York Press last year was a picture of Branson standing next to his already built moon rocket, for which he sold 250 seats at $200,000 a ticket. It'll probably be leaving sometime this year. Is age 4 too young to tackle serious business? Well, before you answer, a 2-year-old Tiger Woods was sinking putts on the Mike Douglas TV show in preparation for redefining the game of golf years later after he dropped out of college. Branson's successful walkabout and the dirt farmer's savvy of Shen Wen Rong are only possible in the classroom of the greater world. All my life I've heard repeatedly that people without diplomas are ruined, and those without degrees doomed to be nobodies. You've heard that too, I know. So how do we account for our 2 best presidents, Washington and Lincoln, having almost no school, or America's legendary industrialists, Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, both being elementary school dropouts?